Welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. I'm your host Caleb. Today we're going to talk about something that I've thought for a long time. There's a strategy that you can play in casual that just seems a bit above every other strategy just because it has everything, and that is a Power Matter strategy. Now I've noticed it's most consistent in Jund colors, but you can really take this and just morph it into any deck, and it kind of just gives you everything you need. You get a ton of card advantage, you get a ton of ramp, and you get a solid win con where you know where the deck needs to go to get that win. And it's also just flexible. Making decks like this bakes in a plethora of other win cons that can just kind of get you there. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we get into that, don't forget to click on that whatnot link to claim your free $15. You guys can also get 10% off all of your Tolarian library proxies whenever you use code DT4D. So super excited to announce I'm now partnering with Baron of Dice to bring your TCG accessories to the next level. These deck boxes are put simply just eye-catching. I'm obsessed with the leather exterior on these. It just makes the art looks super unique, and that's what you're looking for whenever you're trying to show off your deck. The playmats are also super high quality. They have a non-slip backing along with hand-stitched edges featuring that eye-popping art drawn by legendary artists in the space like Ron Spencer. They're also giving me a 5% discount code for all of you guys in the audience. Again, thank you Baron of Dice for sponsoring this channel. The first thing I want to do is talk about the deck that kind of sprang on this video topic idea, and it is Coram the Undertaker. Not only is this one of the deck techs that I get the most comments about people having to take apart because it was just too broken for their playgroup, I had experienced the same thing with this deck. It just seems to, just conjure up wins out of nowhere. I've won with a Mana Dork on the battlefield and a Souls of the Lost. You just had enough in your graveyard, you had enough access to your graveyard, and you were just able to piece together a win. And it does kind of end up feeling like one of those stormy decks where once you just figure out what exactly is going to take you to that win spot, you can kind of get there, but sometimes it takes a while for you to think about it. So it can kind of feel like one of those decks where the player is thinking for 10 minutes and then like, oh yeah, I have it, and then just kind of throws it out on the table. And that's not always the most fun playing experience, and I think that's why a lot of people had to take this apart. And then a lot of people are just not equipped to deal with these kind of style brews where you're utilizing the graveyard, turning the graveyard into your hand, and you have limitless card advantage along with limitless ramp. Let's talk about some of those cards that give us the unlimited card advantage and ramp I'm talking about. Ruthless Technomancer is a staple in all of my Power Matters builds just because of its ability. It enters the battlefield, sacrifices a creature, and then you're able to generate treasure tokens equal to that creature's power. So if we have something like a Galta that we cast for 2 mana because we have at least 12 power on the, or 10 power on the battlefield, now we're paying a 2 mana for a creature, sacrificing it for 12 mana, and that's going to leave us a lot of options whenever we're talking about utilizing that mana to win the game. This also has an ability where we can reanimate cards from the graveyard by sacrificing artifacts, and it gives you a ton of treasure tokens. This is also very abusable with cards like Souls of the Lost that just say its power equal to the number of permanent cards in your graveyard. It's not hard to get Souls of the Lost to 40 plus power, and then you're sacrificing it to Ruthless Technomancer to generate 40 plus mana. And then whenever we talk about cards like Cthulhian Nightmare that's able to loop these two pretty consistently, you can kind of see where these decks just kind of get out of control very quickly, resulting in you winning the game. Other cards like the Reaver Cleaver are also mainstays in these decks. Now they do require you to go to combat, but it also gives your creature trample +1 and the ability to generate treasure tokens whenever you deal combat damage. Notably, if you are playing an extra combat step style, this card is absolutely busted because it gives you enough mana to pay for another combat step 9 times out of 10, and then whenever you pair that with, again, the Power Matter strategy, it kind of does the same thing. You kind of just find enough mana to cast a couple cards, and casting those couple cards leads you to winning the game. Clouth Unrivaled Ancient is another one that turns all of your power on the board into just straight up mana. Now this mana is a little bit restrictive, you have to use it on spells, but let's be honest, that's not that restrictive. We just can't use activated abilities. Sovala Heart of the Wilds is another very good card. It allows you to add mana equal to the greatest power among creatures you control by tapping it. And you know what you can do with this in especially graveyard decks? You can easily sacrifice Sovala, reanimate her from the graveyard, and then tap her for even more mana. And again, it's not hard to net positive mana on these interactions whenever we're talking about a 3 CMC creature and drawing a ton of cards with all of our other card advantage pieces that we're going to get into. And again, a lot of times these strategies, especially in Jund, can just turn your entire graveyard into your hand, which also leads to this strategy feeling very, very strong, and it makes your games inevitable, right? This means if you are playing a Coram deck and you're looking at a turn 7 game, 9 times out of 10 by turn 7 you will have won the game if they have not removed your entire graveyard, and that's just something a lot of casuals tables don't do, and I think that's why these decks just feel a lot more powerful and a lot more oppressive in these casual style groups. I mean, these are decks that just do not lose if you're having these long drawn out games. That brings me to the card advantage. Let's be honest, there is no shortage of cards that say draw cards equal to the creature's power, and then there's also cards that allow you to mill equal to that, like Altar of the Wretched allows you to draw X cards and mill X cards, where X is the sacrificed creature's power. That can just not only fill your graveyard, which is your hand in these strategies, again, it's also going to draw you an insane amount of cards. And we can also talk about Altar of Dementia, which mills cards equal to the creature's power, which again, whenever you have 6 on the battlefield, all you have to do is discard a land to now cast things from the grave. Pair that with Life from the Loam, 2 cards, make your graveyard your hand. I think with all of these pieces combined, again, it just makes a very resilient deck that is very, very hard to interact with, and just ends up being the powerful deck, the most powerful deck at the table 9 times out of 10. Greater Good is also a 4 CMC enchantment. This one's a mainstay in any graveyard deck in Power Matter strategy, in my opinion. You get to sacrifice a creature to draw cards equal to that creature's power, and then you have to discard 3 cards. Sometimes discarding 3 cards can even be a plus depending on what you want to get in the graveyard. That way you can reanimate it. Then you just get to play some free cards that just go in these strategies that are absolutely busted. Like the Great Henge. This is almost always 2 CMC in these strategies, and not only does it tap for 2 mana, it gains you 2 life, and it allows you to draw a card whenever a creature enters the battlefield, or non-token creature, right? And it's also going to put a 1/1 counter on that creature, making them even bigger. So not only do we get powerful cards that we can just slot in for free, we also just get some of the best cards in the format that just make sense in these strategies. Terror of the Peaks is a 5 CMC creature dragon that says whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you get to deal damage to any target equal to that creature's power. So whenever we're looping a 2 CMC creature like Souls of the Lost in and out of the graveyard, this can easily kill the entire table by dealing just 40 damage to the dome. And again, these are just the strategies that have become really, really consistent whenever they're printing more mill cards or consistent mill cards. That's another thing I want to talk about these decks, right? Whenever we're talking about decks that try to put their entire library into your graveyard, you just end up finding the key pieces you need. Anger always just finds its way into the graveyard. You always get 6 into your hand or in the graveyard at any point. And then once you reanimate the key pieces you need to assemble your 5-card infinite combo, you kind of just get there, but it doesn't seem infinite, and that's what makes it feel fair, right? An infinite combo in these decks doesn't look like A plus B, I win the game. It looks like I have 40 cards in my graveyard. That means Souls of the Lost is 40 power, and that means I'm able to do some really broken stuff. So it seems like you deserve to get there, but whenever we're playing casual and you basically subscribe to getting to turn 7 every single turn, these decks just become insanely consistent, and I just wanted to talk about why I think they're just the most powerful strategy right now for casual consistently, right? If you're just bringing this deck again and again, it's just going to be super consistent, and I'm not gonna lie, sometimes it just feels a little unfair, right? One time I was playing this deck and I was able to win the game with something like a Fanatic of Ronus on the battlefield, Souls of the Lost, and then I had a Lively Dirge that was able to find Ruthless Technomancer, put it in my graveyard, and reanimate it. And then, you can just cast Coram and keep casting things from your graveyard. Then you just end up finding, I don't know, a Cthulhian Nightmare, another card that is really not okay in these strategies, and you kind of just get there. With that being said, guys, I just want to hear in the comments down below, what has been your experience playing these Power Matters brews? Are you really enjoying them? Are they smashing the table? Or do you find that maybe they're not that consistent and I've just got a bunch of recency bias?